And we are live. What is up, everybody? Aaron the Dog back with Brandon of MMA Wagers for the UFC, not in Vegas, but Orlando fight card here, live from Orlando, Florida, with me for the 15 card breakdown today, headlined by what should be a striker's delight, hopefully. But maybe there's some wrinkles in the game of one of these two guys, and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson taking on the 2 fight less veteran in Kevin Holland. So both these guys, 16 and 18 fights respectively in the UFC. This is two veterans going at it here. So should be a good main event. But how you doing, Brandon?
I'm good, Aaron. I'm good. Yeah, this is going to be a later card as well. I think it starts the same time as pay-per-views. So just get ready for a long haul.
Yeah, prelim start at 7, 15 fight card. Should be a good pace. The World Cup's going on right now, so the U.S. is playing Iran. So people in my country, I should say, can care about soccer for another 90 minutes or something. So I never started caring, so that's not going to happen. But yeah, pretty good card. Very, very close card. I anticipate we'll disagree more than the one time we did last week. I think it was with one of the cards at least we had but I anticipate a few disagreements on this one, which to me is always the most worthwhile breakdowns because you'll kind of hear both sides. So we'll hop into it here.
For the most part, we agree, but yeah, there are a few disagreements here and there.
Yeah, I think on this card we'll have a few, or at least it's possible to have a few more, because I think most of these all of these fights actually, you could really argue for either side. Starting at 115, probably the most lopsided fight on the card. So I think it's good that they're starting here. Yasmine Jargui. I always just Yasmine versus Estella Nunes here.
Yeah.
Jargui. It's just I'll get it eventually. But Yasmine looked pretty good in her debut. It was a pretty highly you could say entertaining debut, I guess you could say, with the fellow young fighter that she fought from Brazil. She did take a little bit too many shots, but I mean, she was the better fighter overall. I really liked what I've seen out of Yasmine coming into the UFC. Definitely not her best performance in her UFC performance against a younger fighter, but I mean, she's going here against, I think, a fighter pretty similar to her fighter in her debut in Estella Nunes, but Estella obviously has the gas issues, I think, that are going to show up pretty clear in this. I just think Yasmine's going to be able to kind of build a lead early and keep it. She should have no trouble, but I don't love the odds. Obviously, it's one of the biggest odds on the whole fight card, but it's pretty different, pretty wide skill gap.
Yeah, there's always somebody that asks about a 5-fight parlay. I think this will probably be one of your legs. But yeah, Yasmine is she looks very impressive, man. That debut showed a lot. And for how young she is, I'm very surprised how comfortable she looked in the octagon. I think it might have been in the Apex. I'm just going to double check. This might be the first time she's like in performing in front of a live crowd.
Yep.
But still, like, she's going to be feeding off that energy. She comes from Entram Gym with Brandon Moreno. There's a lot of fighters on this card actually that come from Entram Gym, so I'll be making a parlay with all those fighters. Estella Nunes, I have not liked so far what I've seen. 0-2 in the UFC. This is do or die, I believe, for her. She's going to get her walking papers most likely. She just doesn't look that comfortable in the octagon. She did have a 3-year break before her UFC debut, so that might be why she's still getting those jitters out of the way. She got a point deducted in her last fight as well, so you just can't really trust her. I got Yasmine all day. I hope it wasn't just a one performance, and now she doesn't look the same. Like we don't have the biggest sample size here, but I think it's going to be closer than what the odds indicate. But I still think Yasmine should get this done over the course of 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I thought personally, even though it was an entertaining debut, I didn't think she looked great in her debut compared to the tape coming in. And it was against a fellow young opponent too.
Somebody
So
coming in short notice as well.
short notice, and wasn't she 20? Wasn't her
Yeah,
opponent 20? Yeah. So
20.
it's
Yes.
just like, I mean, this is, is Estella Nunes UFC quality? We're gonna find out. I don't think she is. I think she
No.
goes on 3 there.
And only 3 fights in the past 4 or 5 years. You never like to see that.
Yeah, minus 305 I'm seeing to minus 350 for Yasmine, while Estella at plus 255. I thought it was a little wider than that even. I personally think Yasmine should be closer to minus 500. I think this is a pretty big mismatch actually. So at minus 300, I definitely think it's parlayable.
It's because of the commentators hyping her up so much in that fight. The line's where it's at.
Yeah, fair enough. But next fight, Francis Marshall versus Marcelo Rojo, making his trip up to 145 now. I'm not a big Marcelo Rojo believer, I'll be honest. He's very, very exciting, particularly early. But when you make it an MMA fight and start to make him have to think, he does seem to slow down. The gas tank also does seem to slow down as well. He gets finished a lot in the, later in fights. He's 16-8. He's fought a decent level of competition throughout his career, so I'll give him that. Got finished in the 3rd round against Kyler Phillips. Got finished in the 3rd round against Charles Jourdain. Both fights he started out really strongly. Got finished in the 3rd round against Levi Saul Mariquin with Combate back in 2017. Got finished in the 3rd round by John Castaneda. Got finished in a decision by Claudio Playas on the Ultimate Fighter season they were on, and then a few more finishes, not in the 3rd round. But so kind of see my point. He is very dangerous early, essentially an Argentinian Jeremy Stevens. I'm very close to calling this guy at this point. Jeremy Stevens won a ton of fights in the UFC as well, so don't get me wrong there. Francis Marshall, now known as the Fire Marshal because of Bisping. He is the more natural 145 or 23 years old out of Pellegrino MMA. Won by decision over Connor Matthews. I actually liked seeing him go to decision. I didn't mind that at all. He landed some really good shots on Connor throughout that. Connor was tough, showed answered some gas tank issues, and showed that I think that Marshall is much more well-rounded. Rojo won rounds 1 and 2 against Jourdain. I do see that. That's the thing, is he'll either win 1 round and lose the next 2 and lose a decision, or he'll win 2 rounds and find a way. I just think Rojo finds a lot of ways to lose. Francis Marshall has yet to be really tested, though. So this is by far his toughest test of his career. So for me, I've been back and forth. Originally, I was on Francis Marshall pretty confidently. Now I'm going to go with Rojo just based on the experience both in and outside the octagon. I think it's going to be really valuable here. Really, for Francis Marshall, this is his first legit guy he's facing. And I do think he's got a good skill set. Would not surprise me for him to show how good he is, but it also wouldn't surprise. I think this is the kind of fight Rojo is able to finish inside the first 2. So I am going to go with Rojo. Originally was on Francis Marshall. I got Rojo by KO, just being able to push the pace a little bit more, moving up to 145. I think that Francis Marshall is going to just look to wrestle him, though. And I think that's a pretty clear route to victory for Francis. So wouldn't surprise me if that's the route either. So I'm on Rojo, not super confident. Knockout round 1 or 2.
Yep, you talked yourself into Marcelo Rojo.
I did, and I'm not happy about it.
The Argentinian dinosaur. If he does win, we're going to get that celebration. He still has not won in the UFC, 0-2 to start his UFC career, but faced 2 legitimate competitors in Kyler Phillips and Charles Jourdain. Definitely the more experienced fighter. Francis Marshall, only 23. I really liked what I saw against Connor Matthews. He got a 30-26 scorecard in that as well. So he showed a very well-adversed MMA attack. And Pellegrino MMA, that must be Kurt Pellegrino, right?
Yep.
In New Jersey? Yeah,
the guy was choked out by a former UFC fighter, Nate Diaz.
Yes, that's right. Back in the day. So those New Jersey fighters are tough. Yeah, I liked what I saw from Francis Marshall. I think if he comes in with a good game plan, there's a lot of tape on Marcelo Rojo. He should be able to get this done. He also has 2 out of 6 round 3 finishes, and he has a couple round 3 finishes as an amateur. And we have seen Marcelo Rojo get finished multiple times in that round. So I'm obviously going to play the round 3 prop bet on Francis Marshall, but I can see this being like a 29-28 decision going either way. I like the matchmaking here. This is similar to the last fight. Marcelo Rojo probably getting his walking papers if he gets another loss here. So, yeah, and he's training with Brandon Moreno as well at Glory MMA, training with Yasmine as well. So he will be on my Entram gym parlay. But still, at the end of the day, I got to go Francis Marshall, the younger, hungrier, just better fighter in my opinion.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm always saying,
that's what I got.
Yeah. What would Rojo do to Matthews?
Probably the same thing.
Yeah. It will be interesting. I'm interested to see how Rojo looks at 145. JHK on the All Stars had a good interview with Rojo that I suggest everybody check out. Seems to be in a good mental frame of mind moving into this one. Originally, I looking at it right off the bat, I was on Francis Marshall. I've talked myself into Marcelo Rojo, not really super excited about it. Probably not a play I'm putting too much on. Plus 145, though, minus 175 on Francis Marshall. I think that's a little bit out of line there for a guy who's beaten like a 24-30 Ray Trujillo, a 7-6, a 3-2. I mean, he's not faced world beaters, and going to the third round against that level of competition, while good, he's getting the finishes. It's also you're getting into the third round against that level, and it's going to be hard to get there with Rojo. Rojo's going to come out hot, so should be an interesting one.
But what's Rojo's best win on the regional circuit is probably Jesse Strader, right?
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, but I mean, it's again, he's had a lot of close fights with good levels of competition.
Yeah, better competition.
Yeah, and it's just guys like Ivan Hernandez, Flores, just at least facing guys Michael Rosa with plus records and good levels of competition, and losing only to high levels of guys like 8-0, Claudio Puelles, who used to be good before that, Hooker fight, John Castaneda, that kind of level. And I mean, it's just like I have trouble seeing Francis Marshall do better than how Kyler Phillips did. Kyler Phillips was struggling for a lot of that fight.
That's true.
It's an interesting
Either
one.
way, don't bet too much on that fight. Oh, we lost Aaron, I believe. We'll see if we can get Aaron back on here. What's the next fight anyways? We'll get the next fight lined up. Next fight, we got the Israel fighter Natan Levy versus the Mexican Valdez. Yep.
Sorry about
that. All right,
that.
I was just lining up the next fight.
Yeah, I'll get that back up. I just had a quick connection issue here, but Genaro Valdez versus Natan Levy is next. I'm going to have you go ahead and tee this up because I'm just going to get this dog taken care of. So I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, so we got Natan Levy versus Genaro Valdez. Valdez, another Entram gym fighter. So the initial 3 fights on this card, I will have a parlay. He did lose very viciously to Matt Frivola in his UFC debut. I believe he got knocked down 3 or 4 times, so that's never good. He doesn't have any notable names as victories as a 10-1 fighter. All 10 of his wins, like they're not the most notable guys. Patrick White, Edgar Diaz, Guzman, Miguel Arizmendi. I have heard of him, Arizmendi. He did get that win on Contender Series. This will be a second fight in the UFC. He's facing Natan Levy, 1-1 in the UFC, losing his debut to Rafa Garcias, but then rebounding against Mike Breeden, winning a 30-27 unanimous decision. So he's got more experience than the Mexican Genaro Valdez. He is still only 7-1, but he's 5-0 in LFA. He has more notable wins. He's coming out of Syndicate MMA, a very reputable camp. He's only has that one loss to Garcia, which he showed a good account of himself. It was a 29-28, and that was in his UFC debut. He has a karate point style, but he also has a really good ground game. Like, it says he's a karate style, but he gets 9 takedowns in his last fight and 3 takedowns versus Hoffa Garcia. So the guy can do it all. I'm going Natan Levy, but I am going to hedge bet Genaro Valdez inside the distance because every single one of his wins comes by a finish. 7 knockouts, 3 submissions, and majority of the time in round 1. So, yeah, as long as Natan can weather that early storm, I got Natan all day.
All good. And I do see our guest has joined us back there. So I do see it back there. I'm just, tee up after this fight. I'll just kind of real quickly with this fight. Natan Levy is he's a guy who clearly grew up watching GSP, really kind of idolizes that kind of fighter. He's very technical. He's got all the skills. Comes in great shape. When the fight kind of gets ugly, he does seem to kind of struggle from what I've seen. And for me with this fight, Genaro Valdez obviously had a really hard time against Frivola. That's aged a little bit better. But overall, I do like Valdez in this spot. For me, I just kind of question a little bit of how Levy will deal with kind of the pressure and the overall volume that I think Valdez can bring. I do think under 2.5 is a good bet as well. I think someone's getting finished in this fight. Valdez does tend to get finished, and wouldn't surprise me if Levy got finished here. So just really quickly, I will bring on our guest now, and just I'll give Brandon the opportunity to tee him up, since Brandon, I'll give you credit for being the one to reach out to this individual. But Brandon, go ahead and take it away, and then I'll bring on Ben for us.
Yeah, we got Ben Davis joining us, the Bane. You guys probably know him on the Twitter world. Really funny dude, and here he is.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Davis. Not much, man. Nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you for making the time, man. I'm Aaron. This is Aaron the Dog MMA. We like to just come here and break down the fights, go top to bottom from the fight card. Obviously, this weekend we got 15 fights, so got plenty to talk about. I don't know if you kind of have any thoughts on this particular fight with Brandon. Are you on Natan or are you on Genaro yourself?
I got Genaro early. If he can weather that early storm, Natan's going to start taking over with his wrestling.
Okay. And then, Ben, do you have any thoughts? So I'm more on Genaro with this fight for me. I'm an LFA shill. I love LFA. Break down every LFA, and we cash hard. And, I mean, Levy's been promised from the LFA for a long time now, and, he's had decent success. I get he's 7-1. I get he only has the one loss, but I haven't quite seen this fighter we've been promised yet. And I just think a guy like Genaro Valdez, chin withstanding issues, I think can kind of make the fight like more of a style that is kind of more similar to like his Lux fights, more chaotic. So I think
for sure. I think that, right, you're only as good as your last fight, but Genaro's last fight was an interesting barn burner with Matt Frivola, who, you talk about chin durability problems. It's difficult to question. I mean, Frivola hits like a truck. Anybody goes down, right? Look at Otman Azatar, 13-0, now unconscious, still in Madison Square Garden. So you can't really criticize Genaro's durability by any way, shape, or form, just due to the caliber of a guy he faced. But I agree, Natan is obviously talented. He obviously is well-rounded, but not exactly the most exciting fighter in the world. So I've got to echo the thoughts of Genaro early, Natan by decision. That feels like the way to cut this one up if you're part of the gambling republic.
Yep, which I would expect most people here are. I'm not exactly on Twitter like blowing up with like the stories here or there. I'm no Ben Davis coming. Always something interesting with Ben though. It's always fun. But I definitely always appreciate the insight. Any props or any plays you have on that end, always we're welcoming that. Yeah, Hinero right now plus 170 or plus 160 now. Levy is under minus 200. I think minus 200 definitely. Nothing I want to do with Levy.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy. I didn't realize he was minus 200.
Yeah, he gets those heavy odds typically, and I mean at 7-1 he's cash, but I don't know. Maybe Hinero is not the guy, and I'm reaching a little bit there. This next fight I've talked with quite a few people on, and everybody seems to be convinced on their side. So this should be an interesting one to break down. At 125, Tracy Cortez taking on Amanda Ribas here. This fight should be pretty interesting. I think that a fight for me that I looked at with Amanda that definitely gave me some hope coming into this was the Verna fight, the Jandiroba fight for sure. After seeing her response, particularly the first round, I do think that the speed at 125 for Ribas and her ability on the feet is much, much wider of a margin than Tracy Cortez's size and wrestling only. That is it. I mean, I just don't know how else Tracy Cortez wins this fight. And I just am not much of a believer here in that. So I'm going to go with Ribas. I like her more at 125 than 115. I don't like that weight cut at all. I think that just her speed and overall the stand-up ability and her ability on the ground is definitely plus as well. But I just think there's no reason to grapple here with Tracy. That's the only way she wins the fight. So Ben, I'll go over to you, and then I'll go to Brandon, and we'll kind of alternate as I kind of try to tee it up and not take all the
for sure. I'm glad that this is the first fight that I fully pop in on to break down. Of course, a lot of people will be tuning into this. It's interesting when you look at the records of both individuals, because what beats Amanda Ribas, right? A rangy person like Kayla Chuchagian or a power punch like Marina Rodriguez. She's dealt with grapplers before. The aforementioned Jandiroba fight, the Mackenzie Dern fight. She also fought Ariana Carnelossi way back in 2014. So I similarly am struggling to find paths to victory for Tracy Cortez. She's shown a lot of one dimension inside her UFC tenure, which, while all successful, I mean, she's what, 5-0, 4-0 inside the promotion. I just don't think it's above the caliber of who Amanda's faced. I mean, Melissa Gatto, Justine Kish, Stephanie Egger, good wins, but I would argue her best win was on the Contender Series against Mariah Agapova. Right. So since then, she's faced kind of lower caliber individuals, whereas Amanda Ribas is really reaching up there at the tops of these divisions and fighting these more elite athletes. So I just feel experience, tools in the toolbox. You got to go with Amanda Ribas. And honestly, I would want to sprinkle inside the distance, right? That's a little bit nutty on my part. But at the odds right now on DraftKings, it's a pick of -110 on both sides. I think that's a steal for Ribas because Tracy Cortez, the fuck is she going to bring to this outside of failed takedown attempts?
She'll probably have some great stories with Brian Ortega throughout the week as well. They're in love. They love each other. Although those have gone away over the last few months, so maybe they don't. But that's more Ben's realm. More Ben's realm. Hey,
I'm not a gossip account. I don't dig into celebrity gossip.
I don't know, Ben. I don't know. I see you pop up, and I'm like, I'm just looking. Go to the innocent world of Twitter, to get some thoughts on some, fights. So 2 on Ribas. Brandon, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. Shout out to your latest content too with Sean Strickland. That was hilarious last night in the car, and then you got the Sean Strickland voiceover. That was funny. But yeah, this fight, I echo what you both are saying pretty much. Yeah, one-dimensional Tracy Cortez. I believe she's now married to Brian Ortega, husband and wife. So yeah, he'll be in her corner. And we all didn't get an invite.
Yeah, I'm kind of upset about that.
And Cortez has a couple asterisks on her wins too. Egger came in short notice. I believe that was Egger's debut as well. Cortez missed weight versus Justine Kish, and that was a split decision. Could have went either way. So yeah, that's not good to see at all. And
especially as a -310 favorite, dude. You're a heavy favorite getting extended to a split.
Yeah, and missing weight. Yeah, so definitely not good. Both these girls are going to be going for takedowns. I think both of them are going to get a takedown. But at the end of the day, I think Amanda Ribas, she should get it done, man. She has so much more credentials, surrounded by a fighting family. Her dad's like a like a boxing coach or some sort of, kickboxing coach or something. And in that last fight, she actually got fight of the night. Strangely enough, versus Caitlin Chukagian. I think I've never seen a fight of the night with Caitlin Chukagian. So no matter what, Amanda Hebus is going to make it fun. So let's go Hebus by unanimous.
Yeah, Keish knocked down Tracy as well. So yeah, all three of us are on Hebus, which it's a pick'em here. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't mind inside the distance as well. Tracy Cortez, she's 4-0 or 5-0 in the UFC, and yet she's still here on the prelims. So that kind of lets you know a little bit. This is, I think it's a sneaky good fight though. But it's
Tracy
buried on
the size advantage.
It's buried on the prelims between Natan Levy and Genaro Valdez, and then this fight, which, yeesh. Darren Elkins. Hold your horses, everybody, because the second fight Ben gets to break down on the channel is JSP, who I got to see live in his UFC debut in Boston, where Lozon just baptized him. It was no one was going to beat Joe Lozon that night in Boston. I was in that crowd, and I'm telling you, no fighter on the roster. Khabib would have lost Joe Lozon that night. So, everybody needs to leave JSP alone for losing to Joe Lozon in Boston that night, because that crowd got louder for him than at any other point in the night. It wasn't even close. Taking on Darren the Damage Elkins here. This is a hard one to really get behind much. And I'm tempted to, take that shot on Darren Elkins, which just makes me feel gross here, but that's what these odds are trying to do. It's the red flag. And I guess I'm going to say the dreaded, which I hate saying on this channel. I hate saying this. Dog or pass is my advice on this bet, because for me, JSP, you can't count on at this price. Darren Elkins, every few fights, just reemerges as the Damage, and you're like, oh my, he's not done yet. Maybe he is. To me, it sounds a little unfair, but if Darren Elkins gets kind of absolutely steamrolled by JSP here, Darren Elkins should put the gloves in the middle and go and work on the pipes or wrenches, whatever he does. Make him all strong, he's a plumber or something. Yeah. He should do that. If he doesn't have a moment in this fight, then it's really over. I just can't see that in my mind's eye. I know this is not the most technical breakdown here on this fight, but this is just a fight where it's what are you going to do? Go watch the tape on these two and be like, guys, I mean, GSP is longer, stronger, faster, younger. He should be able to. He's a better version of Elkins, but Elkins is a mutant. So yeah. I mean, Ben, what are your thoughts on this one?
It's really curious, and the statement that you made that keeps bouncing around between my ears is every now and again the Damage reminds us why he's still inside the UFC, right? Yeah. Interestingly enough, he's 3-1 in his last 4, the only blemish being to Cub Swanson, who similarly to Joe Lozon looked incredible that night. Don't think any fighter would have beat him. But yeah, you flip the script, JSP, his lone loss since 2017 was that first round KO stoppage to Lozon. Since then, he's been impeccable. Wins over guys like Kai Kamaka, Makwan Amirkhani. But I don't know. I'm not overly impressed with it. Right? That's the thing. These guys aren't really elite guys. And while Darren Elkins has certainly lost to people that aren't elite as well, he's fought guys like Volkanovski, Lamas, Ryan Hall, Chad Mendez, Jeremy Stevens within the last several years. So I don't know. I mean, I think that he's lost to harder opponents, right? Coming off of a win over Makwan Amirkhani, who's Mr. First Round Gas Tank. I just don't think it says a lot. So I agree. At a price tag of -450 at the money line, I'm staying far the fuck away.
He must have Darren Minner knees or something. There must be something with Elkins, he had a bad plumbing accident. Again, I don't know if he's a plumber. Right. Something with
he might be. You're really pushing the plumbing narrative. Watch him be like an attorney. He's like an attorney or a surgeon outside the octagon.
They said he got his I don't know. I'm a Jew. I pay other people to do these things for me. I don't know how apprentice gets work. Brandon, get us on the plumbing talk here, and are you on the nearly -500 JSP, not GSP?
Well, Man, this is an 8-year age difference. Like, we got a 38-year-old Darren Elkins, the damage. He lives by the nickname. He's taken so many shots. He's beaten Tristan Connolly. We just saw Tristan Connolly lose, actually, in the regional circuit a couple months ago. He beat Derek Minner. Derek Minner never really impressed me. JSP, man, he has impressed me. He's looked really good. I know the opponents aren't the most high level, but they're mid-tier. Makwan Amir Khani, Omar Morales. He fights from Fight Ready. There's a lot of fighters fighting from this camp. One of them was Tracy Cortez, the one we broke down last fight. So yeah, I'm gonna make a parlay of all these Fight Ready fighters as well. There's a lot of them, and yeah, I really like JSP, man. He's very active. He strings together takedowns really well. He's gonna be the stronger, faster, younger, hungrier fighter. I see why the odds are minus 400. Like, I think he gets this done, and I don't think it's going to be an issue. He started his career very up and down. It was 4-3, so his past 10 fights, in his past 11 fights, he's 10-1. So, and he had the second most significant strikes landed in a Contender Series fight, 142 significant strikes. So yeah, other than that Joe Lozon fight, I liked everything I've seen from JSP. And I think this is an appropriate step up, and I think he gets it done with flying colors.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, minus 450, the plus 360 on Mr. Elkins there. Yeah, yeah, you got your parlay. If you want parlay minus 450, GSP, good luck. Here is...
There's going to be blood.
Yeah, speaking of blood, hopefully this next fight there is, but although if on my side, I kind of hope there isn't. For the side I'm siding with on this one, but Mark Diakese, Michael Johnson here, which at one point this would be like guaranteed fireworks. Maybe it is still, but for me, I'm hoping to see Mark Diakese Nurmagomedov in this fight because that is how you beat Michael Johnson. You don't trade with him. Michael Johnson looked outstanding in his last fight against Malarkey. He won that fight. I think he won the third round personally after a tough second round. And, so Michael Johnson, the hand speed is still clearly there. Showed the gas I came into that fight looking like he was in better shape, looking like he's kind of slimmed down a little bit. Some fights he's came into looking a little bit soft or like a little bit. And then it's shown with his cardio, he's slowed down. He's had great moments against tons of guys. You can go through the resume as well. And Mark Diakese is a guy who sometimes is really exciting. Then he kind of lost his mojo. Then he learned how to wrestle, and he's pretty effective doing that. Ben said it earlier, you're only as good as your last fight. I think Michael Johnson's coming off of a win. I know it says a loss by split decision to Malarkey, but if that's saying a win against Malarkey coming into this, the stock for Michael Johnson is like much, much higher. I don't think people have gone back and really paid attention to that performance there, but you look at Malarkey's face at the end of that fight, you look at the shots he was taking, that left hand is still crisp as ever. I think if Mark gets into a firefight, Mark's going to go down. I really do. I think if Mark uses that overall MMA and uses the wrestling, I think he can have a pretty easy time in this and kind of just work from the half guard, land some, ground and pound and not really pose too much of a threat, but work that way. And then this kind of gets ugly as it goes and maybe isn't ho-hum decision for Diakese. That's what I see. But Johnson really looked good in the last fight. I don't think he's done at all. And if this turns into a firefight, I favor him over Mark Diakese. So, what are your thoughts, Ben?
That's a problem. I don't think it's going to turn to a firefight. I think Diakese has wholeheartedly abandoned any activity or excitement surrounding his 15 or 25 minutes inside any octagon. Then that's what beats Johnson. Look at Moises, look at Clay Guida. And I agree. Arguably, he's 3-3 in his last 6, getting KO'd by Josh Emmett in the final minute of a fight he was winning, beating Jamil Malarkey. Like, he really is a lot better than I think his most recent record would suggest. But the path is paved for what beats him, and Mark Diakese within his last 2 fights has really put in work on perfecting and honing in that game plan. So, yeah, I mean, he's a bit smaller for everything. He's like, minus 230 coming into this as opposed to the 300, 400 he was at before that against Amir. So I think that while Johnson has the ability to shut the lights out and make this one exciting, I just don't think he's going to get the chance. I think Mark's going to shoot in and just smother him for another 15-minute boring decision. I'll probably be going and getting some food or
yeah, it's crazy. Like, remember when Diakese came in and knocked out Timo Packelman, like killed him? It was just like
bone crusher.
He's never gonna have a boring
TV
fight. He's Paul Semtex now that, you know, without attacking the referees. Like, it's everything that we need. Like, now it's just like he's definitely gonna come in here, grind it out against a guy, Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson used to be one of those wrestlers they'd mention how he could wrestle, even though he never would. They'd always bring up his wrestling background. And now they just have given up on that. But Brandon, what are your thoughts? Sorry, Chico's in the background trying to defend Michael Johnson here.
Yeah, I like how you referenced Mark Habib Diakese. That's definitely what he became. Yeah, he doesn't care if it's boring, man. He's just going to string together takedowns, hold you down, and get the W. His past 2 fights, his control time was 13 minutes and 35 seconds and 14 minutes and 4 seconds. So his opponent only had, 56 seconds and a minute 25. So like 2 minutes out of 30 minutes. Those 2 opponents have, that's pretty much when the round starts. You get 30 seconds, and then, he's going to take you down. And he holds you down. He's so good at doing that. He's so strong. Yeah, he's so strong, so technical. He pitter-patters. He doesn't get significant strikes, but he gets strikes. Like his last fight, he had 13 significant strikes, but 78 total strikes. So he just does enough so the ref doesn't have to stand the fighters up. So, and Michael Johnson has always struggled against wrestlers. Like Clay Guida just a year and a half ago, he lost by a 30-27 decision. If it's standing up, it's Michael Johnson. If it's on the ground, it's Mark Diakese. It's that simple. And I don't see Mark striking. I just don't. So, he's gonna get like 10 takedowns or however many he needs, and he's going to get the W.
You know, it's interesting because the last time that Michael Johnson got a first-round finish was back in 2016 against Poirier, out of all people. And again, it's like I just don't see him recreating that magic with the limited time he's going to have on the feet. He's not a guy that's known for stopping power in the strikes necessarily. So I think, Diakese at that price tag, he's going to just smother him.
And he really relies on his speed, and the older he gets, that speed's going to diminish. And Mark, interestingly enough, he's only 29. He's in his prime still. He's been in the UFC for like 6-7 years now. So this is his time, in my opinion.
Well, with Michael Johnson being 53, it's really curious, what.
Definitely in fight years. So are we unanimous there? I believe we are.
I think it's all on Diakese. Yeah,
we're all on Mr.
So that means take Michael Johnson.
Yep. He's a minus 300 plus 255 on Michael Johnson. I mean, the thing that makes me most nervous again is that last performance against Malarkey. I mean, that was a complete performance. It wasn't just a first round magic, then losing it. I mean, to bounce back from that second round, and he had a split. It is what it is, but plus 255.
Some people would say that decision was Malarkey.
Yeah,
I had to say it. I'm sorry.
Next fight here. We're not talking about Michael Diakese. And all right, this one should not. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. I don't know why this is happening in 2022. But here we are. Clay Guida is taking on Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman. Scott Holtzman is going to just be so much bigger than Clay Guida that I think that could pose some pretty big issues. But Clay Guida can kind of just Clay Guida him for 15 minutes. It would not surprise me. I'm not going to lie. I'm not putting any money on this fight. I don't really feel like losing or gaining money from either one of these guys. So for me, I just think that, Clay Guida can edge out a decision, sure. Scott Holtzman could keep it on the feet and kind of just cruise to a decision too, just be physically much more able and bigger guy. But neither one of these guys is young. Neither one of these guys is going to be off the prelims anytime soon. Ben, do you have anything more positive to say? Because I'm just not a huge fan.
Yeah. I would say the anecdote here is that this is Scott Holtzman's retirement fight, from what I understand. So he's planning on laying the gloves down following it, which means, he's coming in here with a lot more steam than usual. But Clay Guida is just one of those guys where it's difficult to really bet against him. Think of that Leonardo Santos fight where Clay Guida was dead to rights and then somehow was revived in between rounds and got a choke in the second round. So for me, it's like, I don't really trust Scott Holtzman. because he's showed some durability issues here and there. He's been consistent, but it's not like he's really beaten anything notable. Clay Guida, he's been around forever. He's fought everybody. I would almost want to go with the slight underdog Guida plus 130, just because, fuck it. You know what I mean?
That's about how I feel about this fight. Yeah. I did not know it was Scott Holtzman's retirement fight. That just makes me want to bet on Clay Guida even more. I don't think that serves any positive for the former hockey player. Brandon, speaking of hockey, Canada, what's your thoughts?
I don't have much to say about this one. I think the odds opened, Scott Holtzman was like minus 250. So a lot of money's coming in on Clay Guida. I believe the odds are only like minus 150 on Scott Holtzman now. I think a lot of people are thinking the same thing we are. Fuck it, bet Clay Guida. And I didn't know it was his retirement fight. So that's never a good sign. And and I also have a parlay with Clay Guida and Darren Elkins, 2 team alpha male staples. I like that they're both training together. Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman needed to take that time off. He took a year off, 2 brutal knockouts. I see this fight going over for sure. Well, not for sure, but you never know in MMA. But I'll take the over and probably Clay Guida decision prop, I'd say.
Yeah, it just seems like it's going 15 minutes, and either it's going to be a slight stand-up or like stand-up for Scott or grappling for Clay. So plus 130 on Clay, minus 150 on Scott Holtzman. Pass.
I'm just going to pass pretty much, Take the over.
I don't know why it's so high up here. These prelims are all over the place because next we have Angela Hill versus Emily Ducati. Man, I mean,
what an exciting fight, man.
I calm down, Ben. It's not your turn yet. It's
get an antsy.
We love some Angela Hill, don't we? You just never know what you're going to get, but it will be a split decision. Split the split play on both sides and call it a day. Because Emily, she's shit the bed against girls like Vita Ortega before, Ilmi McFarland twice. She's fine, but again, Emily wasn't particularly competitive in those fights. Last couple fights, she's looked very good on the feet. Angela Hill's very crafty and tough to hit on the feet, and also Angela Hill's slowly becoming like the Mark Diakese of the strawweight division, but Mark Diakese the grappling edition. So it's Angela Hill's probably going to shit the bed for a bunch of people against Ducati here. So I got Angela Hill edging out the split decision. She's going to wrestle at times, clinch it up. It's going to be competitive on the feet. It's a solid fight, but I got Angela Hill, I guess. Ben, now you can be unleashed.
Now I can shit on this one.
Let her have
it. No, it's interesting. This is like such a fight that I don't think anyone really gives too much of a fuck about, right? Angela Hill is the proverbial litmus test for women's mixed martial arts. If you get past Angela Hill in a convincing manner, you likely have a pretty good ability to contest with the best. However, on the flip side, right, Emily's second UFC fight against a woman with 21 UFC fights, that's a wealth of experience that Angela Hill can really rely upon. And I agree, right? Bet split on both sides and, call it a day. That's really not a bad way of playing this. I think that also just a small one on a Hill by decision outright. Emily's a little bit smaller. I think she's going to have to deal with that size advantage. And like you mentioned, Hill in her later stages of her career has really adopted the wrestling approach more so than most. So I do like it. I think Emily does have an ability to finish fights. I mean, she's got 3 KOs, 3 submissions inside her career. So maybe even sprinkle Emily inside the distance. Just say, fuck it. Angela's over the hill, you know what I mean? But going to the scorecards, this one is more than likely to.
Yeah. Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Ducati did have that highlight reel knockout last year on Danielle Taylor, so I'll never forget that one. I echo you guys as well. It's probably going the distance. We got to split either way. Definitely take the odds on both the split decision props. I just think the experience is going to play dividends. Angela Hill is also a fight analyst, and she's a commentator. She knows exactly what to do in there. It's just displaying it and putting it all together. That's just been her problem. Like she just I don't know, she just gets caught up in these really close fights. She knows what to do, but I don't know. It's like her mind over physicality or something. But yeah, I think she should get this done. Emily Ducati is a tough out, but she just hasn't faced the competition Angela Hill has faced. Angela Hill's record should be a lot better than it says. She's 14-12, but a lot of those fights could have went the other way. She has 10 decision losses. 4 of them are split to Courtney Casey, Gedalia, Watterson in a 5-rounder, and Amanda Lemos. Like all these girls, they would beat Emily Ducati as well. So yeah, I like the underdog play on Angela Hill. She turns 38 next month. She needs it's now or never for her. She's got to get, and she's so active, man. This is like her 10th fight in 3 years. We got 2 of the most active fighters in the UFC with Kevin Holland and Angela Hill on this card. So yeah, give me Angela Hill by split decision.
Yep, split play will be on my card, plus 100 on Angela, minus 120 on Emily. That's enough.
Mine should be reversed.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but no one likes betting on Angela Hill, so I get it.
Yeah,
so
just makes me feel bad.
Yeah, it really doesn't feel great. I bet her against Claudia Guida, and that was the last time I'll ever bet her because even when she wins, she loses. It's a terrible quality that happens when you bet. But next fight here, this is a very good fight. Caps off the prelims. Nico, the hybrid Price, taking on Philip Rowe in this one. Philip Rowe coming off of 2 knockouts. Been pretty impressed with his stand-up ability when he throws. It's just sometimes he's a little bit too cool for school on the feet for me. Leaves a lot of spaces open on the feet and to be taken down as well. Because he has good jiu-jitsu, I think he trusts his bottom game a little bit too much. We even saw with Jason Witt in the last one. Witt kind of just gassed out in that one after the first round, and once you touch Witt's chin, he's required to go down and go to sleep as he has 10 other KO losses or whatever it is. Jason Witt, I will miss betting the KO loss against you, sir. Vanilla Gorilla, I think he retired, I'm pretty sure. But either way, Nico Price really is an exciting striker. He can definitely find those holes. I think that Philip Rowe will be putting into his game here. Yeah, for me, I'd like to see, if Phil could get this fight to the ground and be on top. I struggle to see how he does so, but Nico also someone who kind of accepts the bottom a little bit willingly as well, especially since he had that moment against Randy Brown. And I think that could kind of bite him because I think Philip Rowe on top could really dominate. I think his jiu-jitsu is much better than Nico Price's overall grappling game. Yeah, it's a close fight, though. Nico is not been super impressive to me in his last 3, though. I do think that a lot of the damage in his fight style early on has caught up with him. Yeah, I got to go with Phil Rowe in this spot. I just think athletically and the reach are going to be 2 big issues. And I do think that he could pull off the submission. For me, Phil Rowe by submission is a good play. I think people are going to maybe be sleeping on it a little bit because of the striking in the last couple, but he's still doing a lot of grappling in between this, and he's much more plus in the submission game here. So Phil Rowe by submission would be my play on this side, and overall, yeah, I do side with Phil Rowe. Ben.
It's interesting. Yeah, I love the interest that Rowe has outside the octagon and on those grappling mats. Even though he's lost every single one of those appearances, it really shows that he's dedicated to growing and developing the holistic mixed martial arts nature. And again, yeah, KOing Witt in round 2, KOing Orion Kasi in round number 2. If you want to go too crazy, I'd say Rowe by KO in round number 2. Fuck it. And again, Nico Price, just kind of like losing steps with each fight. Every time he goes out there, it just seems like he's not as sharp, or he's not as fast, or he's not as durable, or he's not as crafty. Like it's really frustrating being a guy that at one point in time was huge on Nico Price, was a big fan of watching him fight because it was always exciting. And then he's celebrating getting a draw against Donald Cerrone right in 2020. And since then hasn't just done anything. So I think, yeah, this is a bit of a passing of the guard at that weight class in terms of action, more excitement fighter, and Phil Rowe's likely going to take it inside the distance. I don't know if I'd want to go straight sub I would say when the DraftKings line comes out on just Rowe by finish, I'm going to hammer that one. But Phil Rowe, that seems like the consensus pick here.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's always hard to break down a Nico Price fight. He's such a wild card, man. But yeah, I definitely like this fight to not go the distance. Phil Rowe has 9 wins, all 9 coming by finish, 5 knockouts and 4 submissions. He typically gets it done in round 2, 5 out of 9 times in round 2, 56%. Training at Fusion XL, performance with Jared Gooden. He's a Jamaican descent. These Jamaicans are taking over. Other than Delano Taylor last week, but he still hung in there all 5 rounds. I like what I've seen from Philip Rowe. It's just a small sample size still. Just only 2-1 in the UFC. Nico Price 7-5, 0-2 in the UFC. A lot more experience. I'm definitely gonna bet this fight not to go the distance or under 2.5, whatever it is. And I just can't predict like somebody to win this fight. It just can go either way. It's a really tough one to predict.
Ben's gonna have to charge his battery here. So
oh no.
It's okay. We'll take you off till you fix it. It's all good. I was just reading that.
I've got the backup webcam. I'm always prepared for these things.
Yeah,
Profesh.
He probably has a third backup too.
Just got backups everywhere. But all good. I was like, what is this background he has? I'm like, that's just charge your shit.
Nico Price. Like I said, wild card, hard to predict.
Yeah.
I'll go under 2.5 and I like how he took the time off like Scott Holtzman because he has taken a couple knockouts, and that Michel Pereira fight, Michel should have got DQ'd with that spinning into his guard and landing on his face.
Backflip onto the head.
Backflip onto the fucking face, and he got away with it. And and he's only lost a good opposition, Nico Price. Vicente Luque twice, Michel Pereira, Jeff Neal, and El Hassan in 43 seconds. El Hassan knocks out everybody in like under a minute. So, I don't know. I like the under. And
the problem is even in his wins wagers, even in the wins, Nico Price has just not looked all that exceptional. You know what I mean? Like, yes, he's lost to good guys, but I just have not really sold anymore on the hybrid.
He was kind of struggling against Vic before he got that kick.
Yeah, I think it's just like fan bias and Nico Price. I think he's one of the most exciting fighters on the roster, so it might just be my fan bias. I don't want to bet against him.
Yeah, there was something I did not like the Don Cerrone fight. That was a fight to me that let me know that Nico Price isn't that far behind Cerrone in terms of maybe when he's going to be done in this game, because that's a fight where he should have been head and shoulders, and he just let Cerrone hang in there the whole time and took a whole lot of damage he didn't have to take in that one. The long athletic striking for Phil Rowe as well. James Vick and Randy Brown were having success with that before they kind of got into those weird, very fluky situations. So, I mean, Nico Price is very exciting. He's screwed me over plenty of times. Alan Joban, one of those times particularly, that hurt the most. But yeah, it's a weird prelims there all the way around. A lot of the fights, they really do kind of strangely mirror each other, where you're like talking about a fighter with 4 wins who's on the prelims and you don't really buy him, or 5 wins and then like a lot of it. So it's an interesting, this is a card that they're trying to figure out if these guys could be used for fight nights in 2023 or not. I think we're going to see quite a few of the UFC roster watch after this with the X next to them. So this fight is the first one on the main card. It's a really fascinating one. It's one that I'm really having trouble getting a clear prediction on, because both these guys' kind of weaknesses are the other one, where the other one can kind of thrive here. Kyle Dawkins doesn't move his head at all. He just keeps his head dead on the center of the line. And if you put your knee, shoulder, arm, whatever there, you're going to hit him and you can really knock him out. Like the lead say broke his face, 2 months ago was that? 3 months ago? Like five fractures in his face 3 months ago. Like, how soon was Kyle Dawkins training? Like, and how good is it going to feel if a former football super athlete punches him in the face? Like, I just kind of questioned that a little bit. And then Eric Anders, he's there to be subbed. That's what you can do against him. You can also slow him down with that grappling and kind of, wearing on the gas tank, because Eric just kind of throws 100 miles per hour at all times. And he's a football player. He's not made to go 15 minutes. He's made to go 1.5 seconds. So it's just, this is a weird fight to me. I would take Kyle if more time was off, but I just don't think Kyle has taken enough time off from a face-breaking KO from a guy who's probably still on sauce and Dolidze. So, it's like, I don't really know what to do in this spot, because I feel like Eric Anders is good at finding banana peels, and Kyle Dawkins definitely has the ability to get the sub and everything like that, but it's just too much too soon for me. So I'll go Eric Anders in this spot.
It
wouldn't surprise me to get the KO either.
It's really interesting because I completely disagree with you. When you look at Eric Anders, like his last fight out against Jun Young Park, I was screaming at my TV for him to move his head. He's just bouncing forward with his head right on the center line, not throwing anything super effective. He looked like dog shit. And he's only been submitted once inside his career, both amateur and professional, by Andre Muniz, who, again, submits everybody. So it's like Eric Anders has passed that submission test every time out, but I think he's looked awful in his last several performances. And Kyle Dawkins with 9 submission wins. I think that's the context that's needed for that part. I do believe Dawkins can find that submission. I do believe if he wants to get another fucking Darcy, probably can, but it's not going to come without its challenges. And yes, Dolidze's impact on his skull was quite significant, but Eric Anders, everyone keeps mentioning the Alabama years, but I don't think that he's this super athlete. I mean, he looks like trash. His movement's horrible. He's slow. He's gotten a lot of finishes, sure, but within the last several years, it's just been decisions, and the KOs that he does have are guys that I don't really think are doing a whole heck of a lot right now. So, I don't know. I'm just not really high on Eric Anders. I think that Dawkins, even if he's a little bit injured coming into this one, maybe the durability's not there.
I guess it was in June too. I underestimated the amount of time, but still 5 months is not very much. Sorry,
it's definitely not, but I really just don't rate Anders high. And I think that Dawkins by sub is probably the juiciest pull here. I think, Anders accrues another submission loss.
I love disagreements too. I have no problem. I think that's what these shows are made for, is disagreements. So I'm totally fine with that. Brandon, whose side are you on?
First off, love the nickname. The Darce Knight, I believe Kyle Dawkins is called, or Darce Vader, something like that. My favorite submission is the Darce choke. So he's got 9 submission wins, 6 Darces. As an amateur, he has a Darce as well, so that rightfully so, he is the Darce Knight. Kyle Dawkins 29, Eric Anders 35. Eric Anders, not the prettiest UFC record, 6 wins, 7 losses, 1 no contest. But his second UFC fight, I believe, was against Lyoto Machida. They just threw him in there in Brazil, 5-rounder. His losses, he's kind of like Angela Hill. He gets caught up in these really close decision wins or losses. That last fight, you could argue Eric Anders beat Jun Young Park. I don't know about you guys. Did you guys think Anders won that?
I had Anders by decision.
Yeah, I did. And I was really confident on Park going into that. Park was one of my, where I was saying a lot of things Ben was saying about Anders a fight ago. And just, buyer beware with my pick on Anders. A lot of it has to do with just my doubting of how recovered Kyle Dawkins is. So,
Can you put Kyle Dawkins in these names? Thiago Santos, Andre Muniz, Lyoto Machida, I guess Elias Theodoro you can, Jun Young Park, Khalil Roundtree, and Christoph Jocko. Those are all his losses.
Right at the he'd be right in the Jocko realm. Yeah.
Right in the Jocko realm.
Though. Yeah.
And 3 of those were split decisions. So, I see this going over. I see it being close. Another fight-ready fighter, Eric Anders, so he'll be in that parlay. And I also have Kyle Dawkins and Chris Dawkins in a parlay. His brother's fighting, I believe, next week against Jairzinho Rosenstrike. He's an underdog. So, both these guys are still in my parlays, but betting them straight, I'd rather just pass and probably take the over.
Yeah, Eric. I mean, Kyle Dawkins minus 215 plus 185 on Eric Anders here.
Yeah, it's dog or pass actually. That
I think it's much closer than those odds indicate. But either way, maybe I'm being too hard on Kyle Dawkins from getting knocked out.
I think it's weird to say, like, because Kyle Dawkins could have equally has gone in there and lost to Thiago Santos, Khalil Roundtree, Elias, just as Eric Anders did. It's not like he won those fights. His only 3 wins since 2018 were GM3, which is solid, and then the dentist Darren fucking Stewart, and Vinicius Morea, who's got KO'd by every middleweight that exists. So It's like, Kyle Dawkins could have lost to those guys just as Eric did. I don't think that proves anything. And you look at the last fight, both him and Park looked bad.
Yeah,
they just looked bad, man. So, like, I get that it's a bit of a you could view it as a dog or pass situation, but I just don't see what warrants anything betting on Anders. Outside of maybe Kyle's face still needing a bit of treatment.
Face being in pieces still.
Right, yeah.
I forgot to mention Eric Anders does have the 5th best takedown defense in the UFC middleweight division. So if he can keep it on the feet, it's going to be close, right? Like, who's the better striker? Right. I know Kyle Dawkins outstruck Stoltzfus, but I think Stoltzfus is more of a or whatever his name is.
Whatever. The guy who broke Joe Piper's arm and killed my Dana White action that night so bad because I watched the Joe Piper documentary before the Dana White Contenders series. It was like years ago when he was on it. I was like, this documentary is so damn good. I'm going to bet it all on Joe. And then he broke his arm against Dustin. And,
second time around, he got it done.
It's okay. I faded Dustin his whole UFC career, and it's paid off decently well if the odds were ever good. All right. Speaking of the roided up Dolidze is next. I just don't think this guy's clean at all. I don't trust him, and that's fine. I mean, he's beating his USADA test, and he's getting to fight. He's taking this one short notice against the Joker, Jack Hermanson. I think this is a really, really good fight. The ADCC background for Roman Dolidze, the judo as well. And he's just gotten better and better on the feet. He's very, very physical. If the grappling's going to cancel itself out, that is how you can beat Jack Hermanson. Although Jack also has improved his stand-up quite a bit throughout his career as well. It's a tough fight for me. Really? I think that, it is. Just because, I like a lot of the momentum Dolidze has coming into this fight, and obviously the Hawes finish and the Dawkins finish, very impressive. I do, question with him making weight on short notice, how that's going to be able to affect his pace here, because I do think that's one of Jack's biggest tools in this fight. For me, I've got to go with Jack. He's been preparing for a fight, for one. He's got the better overall skills. He's faced a better level of competition. He's younger. And I just think that the cardio for Roman, I can't trust here. And I just don't think he gets that early kind of shot to put him away like he has in these previous couple fights. So I just like Jack in this spot. But yeah, if Dolidze wins this one, then they've really got the contender we were all promised when Dolidze came into the UFC as like a minus like 800 boogeyman favorite type of. I remember hearing about Dolidze so much when he came into the UFC, and he's kind of shown it at times. But I think Jack just shows there's levels to this UFC game. So I got Jack by decision.
And I have to echo that. Yeah, Jack by decision at plus 120. I think that's a steal. You look at not to sound hypocritical, but the losses he has had, Vittoria and Cannonier, guys that went on a challenge for a title. Sean Strickland, a guy who probably should have fought for a title if he had the better game plan against Alex Pereira, in terms of wrestling. And then talking about wrestling with Hamzat Chimaev losing by decision in points in 2021. I really like the development of Jack Hermanson, and he displayed it all in his last fight against Chris Curtis. I'm a big fan of the action man. He's a really great dude, but man, he kind of got embarrassed by a guy in Jack Hermanson who's more of a grappler, right? That's what we know, Matt. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he shot for a single fucking takedown. He just styled on him. So a guy in Jack Hermanson who's been at that top 10 for so many years at this point, who has fought the who's who of this division, coming in against Roman Dolidze, who several UFC fights against Who? Dawkins and Haas. That's about it.
Oh, come on. Dawkins and Haas are pretty good.
They're pretty solid, but you can't tell me that's on the same.
That's a big step up competition.
It's a big step up. I mean, Strickland, Cannonier, Vettori, Edmund Shabazian, right? I would say the only one that's in that level that the leads they could probably fuck up to. Maybe Gastelum, but I don't know. I think it's a big step up. I think Jack Hermansson similarly putting a lot of things together. Delize's got momentum, sure, but I do believe it's about to run out. And again, the fight with Haas, dude, Phil blew out his leg quite early. You know what I mean? So that fight could have been maybe a little different if Phil wasn't a bit compromised. So yeah, Hermansson by decision at plus money. Come on, that's an easy bet.
I feel better after hearing that. Brandon, your thoughts?
Yeah, and Haas has been knocked out 5 times now, so you can't trust Phil Haas at all. But yeah, like I said, big step up in competition. Jack Hermansson, I believe he can just keep it on the feet, out volume Roman here. Roman's coming in super short. Well, not super short notice, like 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks. But still short notice. Yeah, he didn't take much damage in that Phil Haas fight. That was October 29th. But still, yeah, I think he's biting off too much than he can chew here. I always refer to him as Mr. Steal Your Girl now, ever since he stole JP Bai's girl.
Yeah.
So
Cheyenne Blismus. Yep.
That's right. So Roman, Mr. Steal Your Girl.
Didn't Cheyenne retire? Didn't she say like she
can't come?
I think she said like she's not. I don't know. Maybe she hasn't fought in a while, and she came out with a statement a while ago. Either way, yeah.
And Jack nearly beat Sean Strickland. It was a split, but that really shouldn't have been a split. Even Jack was like surprised when they read off those scorecards. But yeah. To me, Jack's got to win this, man. I think he's just better everywhere. If he does drop the first round multiple times, let me say that. So maybe wait to bet live. And hedge bet Roman in round 1, because Roman, 64% of his wins do come in round 1. And Thiago Santos did do that to Jack Hermansson, but Roman is not Thiago Santos. So, but I'm still going to hedge bet. I'm going to look at the live bets, and I'm going to take Jack by decision. Let's go.
Yep. Jack minus 190, the plus 120 on the decision, plus 160 on Mr. Delize. They're taking the fight on short notice. Yeah, I like Jack quite a bit. One of my favorites on the card. Some of the fights are hard to break down. This one to me is as straightforward as it comes. It's a heavyweight slugfest where, of course, the fat guy is the cardio king, and the guy who looks like he's kind of built, like a specimen with the long reach and everything has 3 minutes of gas? That's Sasha Pavlovich. He has 3 minutes to get this done against Tai Tuivasa. 3 minutes. If he doesn't get it done in the 3 minutes, you are going to see the biggest cardio dump of the year after that 3 minute mark. When it gets down to 1:59 in the first round, you are going to see Sergey Pavlovich looking he's going to fall apart after that. I think Tai Tuivasa will take over after the 3 minute mark. He definitely can finish Tai Tuivasa in the first 3 minutes. He could come in there and get another first round knockout. And we got Sergey, he has this, 88-inch reach or whatever it is, this enormous reach. He doesn't, use it. It doesn't matter. He likes to just get into the phone booth, throw down. His power is more than your power. I think Tai Tuivasa withstands the early storm and gets a knockout late in the second round. So I got Tai Tuivasa by KO, making the Orlando crowd go crazy, doing a shoey out of a Mickey ears and shit. It's going to be great. Tai Tuivasa survives early. The guy who looks like he's made out of a rubber tire all the time. He's got that cardio, baby. He's got that Roy Nelson cardio. And Sergey Pavlovich is going to be gasping for air after 3 minutes.
I want that to be true. I want to agree with you, because Tai Tuivasa coming back off of the loss to Cyril Gane and being victorious in front of a live crowd would be great. However, I'm just not as confident necessarily, and it's less about me not wanting to ride Tai Tuivasa into the sky, and it's more about, look, let's bet smart, boys. It's not going to go the distance. Fuck, it's not even going to make it out of round 1 probably. So for me, as much as I want Tai to win, I respect and acknowledge that Pavlovich has been on nothing but first-round KOs.
Yes.
Even in his losses, it's a first-round KO.
Yeah,
so this one's not going to make it to the second round. I believe to not start round 2, no is minus 150. Maybe that's not as juicy as you guys would want, but that feels very safe. Now, that being said, I'm definitely going to sprinkle, right, a little bit of Tai Tuivasa in round 2. You look at that, that's plus 850.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So plus 850 when Derek Lewis was round 2, Augusto Sakai was round number 2. So I do think, right, that there is a bit of value, but the smarter play, the easier play is either this one's just not going to go the distance or it's not going to make it to round number 2. I don't. It's not that I don't trust Tai, but it's like, we have seen him lose right before this big streak that he went on to fight Cyril Gane. We really saw him get exposed on a couple occasions. And Sergey, outside of the Overeem fight, has looked complete. He's looked dangerous. In fact, he's finishing guys that Tai fought quicker than Tai did. And Derek Lewis. So it's tough for me to go on either side of this one. I just think in the middle, it's going to end in a finish. It's not going to go to the second round. That's how I'm going to cut this one up.
Yep. That's totally fair. Brandon, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, Pavlovich, I just don't like his activity. He only has 3 fights in the past 3 years. And that Derek Lewis fight finish was questionable. Like, I think the ref might, even Dana White said the ref made a mistake there. So, and then he knocked out Shamil Abdur-Kimov. Shamil's been knocked out like 6 or 7 times. Yeah. And then before that, in 2019, he knocked out the Crochet Boss. So watch out, guys. If he can knock out the Crochet Boss. But
dangerous.
Yeah, this is a huge step up in competition as well. Like, I guess he just fought Derek Lewis.
This is just a really good fight.
This is a good matchmaking. Yeah, good matchmaking.
Heavyweight slugfest here where neither guy's going to try to wrestle.
Tai might be coming back a little too soon. 3 months.
He's the guy who came back after 3 months of a beating. That I got my dates crossed, but yeah, he's the one, and that was quite a beating.
Yeah, only 3 months since that. Somebody's knockdown streak may end here. Tai's got 6 knockdowns in a row. Sergey's got 4 knockdowns in a row. So yeah, or they both could get a knockdown and they both keep that streak alive. But I like Tai here at underdog money. Tai's never been finished in the first round, and every single finish that Sergey has is in round 1. 13 out of 16, 81% of the time. Tai has been knocked out twice, once to JDS, Junior Dos Santos in round 2, and then Cyril Gane in round 3. So I think if it gets out of round 1, it's going to be Tai, and I think Tai's got this. And like Ben said, definitely bet this fight not to go the distance. Like, somebody's getting out.
The larger cake is this one's going to end inside the 15 minutes, but the cherries on top, that's where you could really cut it up with the props. And, to sort of get at that comment, just my 2 cents, faster, more durable, reach advantage, more accurate, longer boxing combos with Pavlovich. Again, like we mentioned, against who? Right? Against fucking who, man? You talk about the ability of Tai Tuivasa. Crochet Boss, man. I mean, that's future heavyweight champion, Crochet Boss. No,
Crochet Boss is boss.
In PFL now,
that's Sergey's nickname. Crochet Boss is boss.
No, I think that Tai Tuivasa has displayed time in and time out an ability to withstand some adversity inside the pocket. I feel Pavlovich's past opponents haven't been able to get in there in the trenches and weather it as much as Tai Tuivasa is going to be able to. And to echo what we've really been saying, that's where it's going to attack the gas tank. That's where the cardio dump's going to occur. When Sergey realizes, oh no, my initial barrage doesn't end this guy. Where do I go next? And I like Tai so much, man. I really wish that they didn't give him a guy who's 16-1, right? No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do anything. I just, I think that it's at underdog. Like, this should be a bit more of a pick 'em. I really think
because he's 16-1, because he has an 87-inch reach, because he's from Russia, because he looks like how he does, because Tai looks how he does.
We talk about the Crochet Boss, but again, Tai Tuivasa has a win over lineal heavyweight champion Harry Hunsucker, which we haven't talked about.
Yeah, well, two
division heavyweight champ.
We're a Henry Hunsucker believer on this channel. Forever and ever. We're looking forward to his debut at
That's the name of the podcast.
We've had Josh Parisian on, Harry Hunsucker's older brother, basically. So why not have Harry on too? Have all the shitty white heavyweights who should be fighting at middleweight. Anyways, before I get carried away too much here. We're going to plus 170 on Ty, minus 200 on Sergey. The price is wrong, bitch. So we're going to the flyweights now. This is another really close fight. Most of this card is close fights, so saying that is kind of stupid. But Matt Danger Schnell taking on Matthias Nicolaou here. Matthias Nicolaou, I think in his 8th fight in the UFC now. He's just been around for a while between his 2 stints. Very, very well-rounded guy. He just doesn't really, put himself into the fire too much. Still only 29 years old. Keeping Nova Union alive here. I think that, for him, Matt Schnell's shown in the fights before that he has jiu-jitsu, but then he goes against someone who has more jiu-jitsu, and his jiu-jitsu seems to disappear. For me, with Nicolaou, it's like, why mess around on the feet very much here? Just, I think, go with the wrestling, go with the takedowns, go with the grappling here. Schnell is every couple fights he's great, and then he kind of goes back to being Matt Schnell. And I just think that this is the level Matt Schnell kind of struggles at. Jiu-jitsu wise, I think Nicolaou has the advantage. So submission for Nicolaou is my pick here, but Schnell is always live for a knockout.
It's interesting. Yeah, I think that Mateus by decision is the likeliest outcome here. It is curious because in a very tangential comment, Matt Schnell has lost to the shortest UFC fighter ever to grace the octagon, Hector Sandoval, who stands at a crisp 5'2" tall. So, that was years ago. Not relevant at all, but funny comment. Yeah, I think that the Sumadarji win is going to really sway a lot of people in a way that they shouldn't be swayed, thinking that Matt Schnell is this guy who can do that every single time out and produce these types of fights every single time out. Before that, 1 in 3, right, between Royval, Bontarine, Alexandre Pantoja, and Tyson Nam, which, again, are all pretty difficult names. It's not like Schnell's fighting some easy competition at 125. It's a shallow weight class, but there are some killers, and Schnell seems to have fought most of them. So I think that is quite important to factor in because, Tim Elliott, Felipe Evrain, Cop's pretty solid. Tim Elliott's pretty decent, but I don't know. I think that Mateus by decision, that's it. There's really not much to unpack here.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Matt Schnell's definitely raking in the money right now. 2 bonuses in his last 2 fights. Candidate for fight of the year versus Sumadarji. He did take some damage in that fight. Ended up coming back. Crazy win. He's cashed as an underdog 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in his past 7 fights. So if he's got a plus number, you really could take a look at him as an underdog play. And he's beaten guys at Mateus Nicolaou's level. He's faced really good opposition. I think this is a close fight. Ever since Matt Schnell's went to Fortis MMA, he's shown more wrinkles, more tools. Yeah, I don't really have much to say on this one. I think Matt Schnell is a good underdog play.
I'll be honest, this is my first time looking at the odds for the show here. I don't understand these odds. Minus 400 on Nicolaou. That's insane to me. That's insane.
Yeah.
I don't get it. This is a very close fight. And Nicolaou is someone like earlier when I was talking about Natan Levy. Nicolaou has been a guy who's been promised for a long time. We haven't really seen, though, that performance that lets me know he's that guy. Minus 4. I mean, this is begging you to take a shot at Matt Schnell, this price.
Absolutely.
Because I do think
he might be coming back a little too soon. Oh no, that was July. That Sumadarji fight. That seems like yesterday, but that was in July. So yeah, he's definitely taking some time off.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm just gonna leave it alone because I am on Nicolaou's side. But anybody who's playing Schnell this weekend, I'd be very excited to play that price. I think that line's wrong.
I'll give you a quick parlay that I just created. If you make 4 picks here between Schnell, Tuivasa, Rowe, and Hebos, it's at plus 4,700 odds. Insane. So we've talked about the value that each one of those individuals brings into the octagon. Exactly. $1.50 net 72. I just laid it down.
That's what I'm saying. That is I love that kind of stuff, Ben, and you're always welcome to join me on any of these shows. If you ever want to break down, you're always welcome. So I appreciate Wagers setting this up. I had nothing to do with it, I'll be honest, but I always welcome people on, and I really appreciate it.
I was persistent, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, I was pretty bad at communicating, not gonna lie. It's been a busy last couple of weeks.
It's all good, man. You're busy with your Twitter, drama. So you came away from it to talk about some actual fights. It's all good. So yeah, we are on Nikolai. I am by far the least on him, and at -400, I just think that's
I'm on match now.
Yep. Oh, you are on match now. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that makes
let your dogs howl. Let them howl.
Yeah, I know. They're all sleeping right now, so we're going to get sleeping dogs lie. We're on to the co-main event. Cue the circus music for this one because this one's just weird. We have an undersized welterweight coming back up to welterweight who's been at lightweight sometimes in RDA. Just got knocked out by Fiziev in the 5th round of their last performance. Taking on Brian Barberena, 3 straight wins. Last win coming over Robbie Lawler. I don't really know what to expect from this fight, to be honest. I'm not the biggest Bam Bam believer, if I'm being honest, but I also am not sure at this point what we're getting from RDA at 170. I think it should be enough to beat a guy in Brian Barberena, but I don't really know. I don't know why he keeps kind of bouncing between the weight classes. I don't know why he's fighting someone like Brian Barberena at this point, and I don't really know how much is left for RDA. So I don't have much thoughts on this. I don't like RDA at nearly -400 here, going back up to 170, but he should be able to get by Brian Barberena, right? So I'll say a decision for RDA. We just keep moving on.
Yeah, I mean, it's talking about unpacking it. Like RDA, I think is a bit underrated currently. You look at his last wins; he battered Renato Moicano. I mean, that was just beatdown. And Moicano has shown that he's still game as fuck. So, in my opinion, right, being 2-2 going into the 5th round for Fiziev, dominating Paul Felder. I mean, that was a grappling masterclass over all these guys. Felder, Fiziev. I'm not sure what Moicano was ranked, but they were top 15, right? So RDA, again, like you said, should be able to get by a guy in Barberena who lost to Jason Witt by decision. That's such a fucking outlier. You know what I mean? When you look at the record, and the win over Lawler was a fun fight. It was back and forth, but it's the ghost of Robbie Lawler. Prime Robbie Lawler kills Brian Barberena 10 out of 10 times. So it's like he's getting this opportunity off of a bit of a smoke and mirror situation, whereas RDA, when you look at his most recent performances, you say, oh, that's a lot of losses, but he's fighting some of the best guys in the world, and he's beating, a percentage of them. So I don't know. I think RDA by decision. It's just weird. The most interesting thing about this fight is why is RDA going back up to 170?
Right.
Losing to a top 10 lightweight in the 5th round of a fight that you were really competitive in. I really, am grasping at straws for what the reasoning is, but RDA by decision. That feels like the best.
I just have always felt like Brian Barberena is not really a real welterweight either. That might not be fair, but I feel like he's more of a 165er who's like, I like being a little comfortable and not having to cut too much weight on the farm. So 170 it is. Jason Witt again. Yeah. Ryan, Brandon.
I got RDA too here. Okay. Brian Barberena has 0 takedown defense. He is so easy to take down, but he manages to get up. But I just think RDA just stays on him. He's probably going to get 10 plus takedowns, rack up that control time. Brian Barberena is very volume heavy. He has his recent fights, he's landed 148 strikes, 186, 134, 114, 175. So this guy always reaches over 100 strikes somehow. So he's active off his back, obviously. So it's going to be hard for the judges to dictate if Brian Barberina's doing more off his back, are they going to favor him? Most likely not. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I like RDA here, but Brian Barberina is in my fight ready parlay. A lot of fight ready fighters, and RDA rinse and repeat grappling.
You think he gets a submission?
No,
just a decision. Okay.
I think because he's only been submitted once, an armbar in round 3, really early in his career, and he's lost by 5 decisions to Chad Laprise, Kobe Covington, Leon Edwards, and Jason Witt. I guess none of those guys are really savvy submission fighters. So he could potentially.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out some way to slice down minus 550 favorite. And shout out to JR MMA getting a minus 225 on Nicolae. That's much better than minus 450, and Pierce was minus 350. So those are 2 good ones. Yeah, RDA minus 550. Obviously, the decision even is not going to be that great. Should be a decent fight. Main event time. Very good main event here. Will it be the battle of the strikers? Will one of these guys decide to show some folds in the game? I think that Kevin Holland is the one who's more likely to, if there is one to. Both these guys only tend to lose to either the very top with Stephen Thompson with a few of his best losses, or primarily wrestlers, and they tend to beat other strikers. So this is an interesting one for sure. Stephen Thompson, I don't know. It feels like he's definitely started to take a couple steps back. And with a guy like him, half a step back is significant. And I think he's taken at this point even a full step back. And Kevin Holland, I just think, is the guy who is more likely to take this fight into the realm where maybe he's able to get into a scrambling type of position, snatch up a choke type of a thing, use his abilities to get to the back even of Stephen Thompson. And I just think that Kevin Holland's making this fight way harder on himself if he makes it just a kickboxing fight for 25 minutes. He's really setting himself up probably to get decisioned by Stephen Thompson. So he's going to have to find a way to mix it up, because I don't think he's going to catch Stephen and put him away with a KO, which is the other hope here. So it's like, how does Kevin get it there? Does he have the wrestling and that ability and that drive and desire to follow through on that? I can't trust that. He's shown over and over again he's there for a good time, not here for a long time type of thing. So I think he's going to fall into kind of a little bit of a trap with Stephen, where he's just getting kind of 3 shots to 1 type of thing. He's not feeling really affected by the strikes, so he's not thinking he's losing the fight, and he loses a decision to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I'm not ready to bury the upstart karate kid yet, who's not quite a kid anymore. But yeah, I think Stephen Thompson's going to have a vintage 5-round decision, winning 3 rounds to 2, 4 rounds to 1 type of thing. Kevin Holland just doesn't show me he does what he needs to do to win, which in this case would be to mix it up and not fall into a striking war. I think he thinks he's a better striker than Stephen Thompson, and I think he's going to be sadly mistaken. So Wonderboy gets the decision win.
To me, it really just depends on what version of Wonderboy comes inside the octagon, right? If we get Stephen Thompson, who's 80% of what he's shown at his best with the distance management and striking from the outside. I mean, if it's a Vicente Luque type performance, I can seriously see that. Another big, strong puncher that in terms of footwork, I don't know. I've never really been impressed with Kevin Holland's footwork. He's much more of a boxer approach, and like the guys that he's lost to, right there, the majority of them are grapplers, right? That's kind of the bread and buttering of what beats Kevin Holland. Same thing can be said for Stephen Thompson. And in my opinion, Thompson's beaten better strikers. Now, what's curious is, again, the age and the fact that Holland's got about a 6-inch reach advantage. And like you said, he does have a serious grappling ability. 7 submissions, 12 KOs, so 19 finishes and 23 wins. Holland, I think, can definitely finish this fight. It's just about putting it together. So I do believe that Kevin Holland's going to get the win here. I'm going to go inside the distance, 25 minutes with Kevin Holland. He's probably going to get it done. I like Stephen Thompson, man. You give me this fight 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it's all Stephen Thompson. But I just don't love how he's performed. So I'm going to go with the Trailblazer, man. I know that's disappointing, but I think Holland inside the distance.
I get the disagreement on this one. I've been back and forth. Like I always like to say in fights like or sometimes I like to say, I should say, I look at the fight, and when I first looked at this fight, I said Kevin Holland KO. That was what my first reaction was. Kevin Holland KO. I don't know what it is. I like Steven too much maybe, but Brandon, what are your thoughts on this main event? Which side are you siding with? What do you think?
Man, this is a tough fight to pick. Both these guys, very talented strikers.
Yes.
I think Stephen Thompson in his prime, all day, I would be picking Stephen Thompson. But at 39, he's involved in that karate promotion. I don't know how much he's invested in just competing now. But at the same time, Kevin Holland had that fake retirement. I knew from the beginning he was just trolling.
Yeah, I don't really even like. Who cares? He was just
you don't put too much stock into that.
Yeah.
Kevin Holland he lands more strikes per minute. But this is the bigger cage. This isn't in the apex. Stephen Thompson's gonna have more room to navigate. But yeah, just at that age, footwork, speed, reflexes, all those things start to diminish. But Stephen Thompson, he's not like an ordinary human, man. I think he still has it. He's going to make this very competitive.
Yeah.
I see this going 5 rounds as well. I don't see a finish. If there is a finish, we could see Stephen Thompson getting a highlight reel finish too. Kevin Holland's been knocked out. No, Kevin Holland's never been knocked out. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's one thing. And he's got that 5-round experience with Derek Brunson and Marvin Vettori. And if you remember, Kevin Holland actually scored a takedown in round 5 versus Derek Brunson and won that round pretty dominantly. So we know he can go all 5 rounds. So I'll take the younger, more active fighter in Kevin Holland, but you never know with the judges, their angle. They might see Stephen Thompson doing something that Kevin Holland's not, and we might get a sketchy split decision. You never know.
Yeah, I think if Kevin Holland is going for takedowns, that's actually a very good sign for him. Like, I think that I would favor him significantly more if in his game plan is the plan to wrestle here.
I don't think he will, though.
Right.
What do you mean? I think he could.
I think he'd be smart to. If he does, my stock for him goes up.
Fights ago, he had a takedown. That was his last takedown versus Derek Brunson in round 5.
That's also why I'm going with Stephen Thompson. I don't think he's going to. But if he does, I think it'd be smart, which is why I don't think he will. I don't find Kevin Holland to be the most intelligent fighter. And over 5 rounds, that's a lot of time for those intelligent lapses to show like they did in the Derek Brunson fight. So it's just kind of where I'm at. But, I get it. I get the people who are on Kevin Holland. Another fight that I think of with this is the Joaquin Buckley fight, where Kevin was really letting Buckley get so much off till finally Holland just caught him at the end of one of his shots in the second round. But like with someone like Thompson, you can really fall into that for 2-3 rounds. You're like, oh, he's like hitting me, but it's nothing. But the judges, they're like, significant. Like, and then all of a sudden you're down and it's like, oh, I can turn it on. Like, and if you don't catch him with that Jacare miracle shot, the
Anthony Pettis Superman punch.
Anthony Pettis, exactly. Like, sure, Kevin Holland can do that. If he does, you tip your hat. But if he's going for takedowns early and often, he's going to win this fight or have a much better chance of winning this fight, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to do that.
He's much more of a defensive grappler. Right, we saw that against Chimaev. We saw that when Means initiated, he has the ability to get these submissions, but it's not a guy that really initiates those types of exchanges.
Chimaev wanted nothing to do with Kevin on the feet. There will be like he faked the high five and went for the takedown and won. Like that is telling. Like that. Like so. Like Kevin Holland. If someone gets a finish, it's Kevin Holland here. And if Stephen Wonderboy Thompson gets a finish, my head's gonna explode. Because then it's like, oh, Daniel Stitchigan's walking through the door, and then we're all just partying. Like
question mark kick.
Rest in peace, Daniel Stitchigan. He always like pops up on like Fury cards and like loses to some random person too. It's like, oh yeah, like Stitchigan still like a plus 400 against like Anthony Jimenez or something, but still got that. We cover Fury on here, Ben. If you want to come on for a Fury.
What don't you guys cover? This seems like every promotion's getting the breakdown.
Check it out. Aaron the Dog, MMA. We cover LFA. We cover Fury. We cover the Contender Series before everybody else was covering it. We've been covering since season fucking 1 before the rest of these echo chambers get on.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Oh, geez, baby. I've been around and I have no problem. But it's really seriously been a pleasure having you on, Ben. Shout out to Wagers for being persistent, man. Like, seriously, I appreciate him being persistent. He's always, bringing and really you really brought a lot of good information today, Ben. I really appreciate it. You are more than a Twitter drama. I'm shocked. You fit right in.
Actively working to prove that every day. I'm trying to.
Well, if you ever want, you're welcome here anytime. We cover really any card. We cover Bellator. We cover Cage Warriors. Cage Warriors I cover with my boy Norton over in London. So always fun to cover with him. But yeah, we cover it all. You're always welcome on here. Give the people, we got double-digit viewers as usual, which has been nice. Got an organically grown crowd here. The Arcadome in the house, just my 2 cents. Moist Audio giving you some shit earlier. Moist is a legend. If you want to talk about a great Twitter follow, Moist Audio, he will just make you laugh every single day. He's a great dude. Justin, everybody else. But Ben, let the people know where to find you if they're not familiar.
For sure. Yeah, it's at Ben the Bane Davis on all platforms. Again, Twitter is primarily where my focus is at right now. I do play-by-play commentary for a promotion here in Arizona and a promotion down in South America. So when those events get rampant, hoping to help bolster the viewage. Also, I got a YouTube where I put a lot of my interviews and other more professional content. But yeah, at Ben the Bane Davis, that's where it's at. Appreciate you, boys.
Absolutely. And just make sure to let us know when those cards are coming up. We'll definitely break down those cards on here and get some eyes on them as well. So
there's definitely not a ton on these regional boys.
Oh, I don't care. I've broken down the China road to UFCs before. I've gone on to I will, if there's a will, there's a way. I've broken down the 0-0 fights on the PFL Challenger Series. So trust me, I don't care, big or small. If I can break down the fights, I'm happy to do it. So there's no problem. And either way, all the best with that, because that's something I'm very interested in myself. So I admire and, respect the grind, Ben, and hope to have you on many more times in the future, because you really did fit right in here. And I really appreciate the insight you bring and everything like that. So thank you so much for being on.
Hey, thank you.
Here. So
I can't wait to be back. All right. I'll see you guys.
We'll have you on soon, man. Take care. All right. And then, that will pretty much do it. Brandon, shout out to you for being persistent here. Shout out to Moyes, just my 2 cents, all of the above. Real quick, we had a 5-fight parlay that was requested.
We can do the quick picks if you want.
Yeah, let's do quick picks. And it was good to have Ben on.
Great show.
Yeah, I mean, he fits right in. Hopefully he'll be able to make some time in the future as well, because I think that he had some good information that definitely helped me with some of my thoughts. So quick picks, 5-fight parlay coming here. So we'll pull it back up here. And yeah, that was great. So was not planning on having him on at all today for everybody, but it fit.
Spontaneous.
Right. Yeah, Yasmine, you're a Gui. We're gonna go with versus Estella Nunes. I got Yasmine, and Yasmine is the first piece of the parlay.
Yeah, I'll take Yasmine as well.
Francis Marshall over Marcelo Rojo. Marcelo Rojo by KO, round number 2. Don't feel good.
Francis Marshall, round 3 knockout.
All right, he is not in my parlay. Natan Levy versus Genaro Valdez. I think this is going to be a war, and that plays into Genaro's game. I think Genaro's going to bust him with the pressure and the volume.
I'll take the Israel fighter Natan Levy by decision.
Israeli,
Israeli fighter.
Yeah, that's me, the Jew. I go against Israel here. Sorry. Next one. Amanda Hebas versus Tracy Cortez. I got Amanda Hebas in this one, and I think she avoids the grappling, kind of puts it on her. I'm tempted to put it in my parlay, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, before this show, I really didn't have a strong lean, but now I'm all over Amanda Hebas by decision here.
Yep. Next one, 145, JSP versus Darren Elkins. JSP, just younger, stronger, better, but Darren Elkins is a dog shot at this price, but Jonathan Pierce by decision.
Yeah, I got to go Jonathan Pierce. And with the damage, the blood, it's not going to look good. The judges are going to favor Jonathan Pierce here.
Yep. Next fight here, a fight that the more I watched tape on, the more nervous I got, especially because of the way that Michael Johnson looked in that last fight against Malarkey, but I am going to edge with the Casey Nurmagomedov here to use that wrestling. And I'm putting him as my next piece in my parlay. I'm just going to trust the process, but I'm nervous still.
Yeah, for sure. These London shoot fighters, the camp is looking really hot right now. Mark Diakiese cruises with a dominant, control time grappling decision.
Yep. Next is a fight that is apparently a retirement fight for Scott Holtzman as he takes on Clay Guida. That makes me super nervous and makes me think Clay Guida is going to steal this one. Clay Guida by decision.
Yeah, I was originally on Scott Holtzman. I think I have him on parlays, but I think
I do not like retirement fight for the guy who's 5 years younger or whatever.
And even if Clay's 40, he fights like he's still in his prime. So I'll take Clay.
Clay by decision, gross one. Emily Ducati versus Angela Hill. I'm playing the split on both sides and being done with it, but Angela Hill would be my official pick.
Yeah, I echo the exact same words.
Yep.
Exact same. Angela Hill.
Exact same. Phil Rowe versus Nico Price. I think this is going to be a great fight, really close. But I'm going to edge with Phil Rowe. Surprise, he's the underdog. I think the submission is live as well.
I'm just going to go Nico Price round 2 knockout. Fuck it.
Okay. Fuck it. Eric Anders versus Kyle Dawkins here. This is just another one that I'm just not sure really what to think, but I'm going to go with Eric Anders to edge out a decision.
Yeah, me too. I think he can keep it on the feet, and I think he's the better striker than Kyle Dawkins. So Eric Anders by some sort of decision.
Yep. Jack Hermanson, Roman Dolidze. Roman on full notice, I feel a little better about, but I'm still edging with Jack. But on short notice, I'm very much edging with Jack Hermanson. Jack Hermanson gets the decision and is the third member of my parlay.
Yeah, Jack was supposed to fight Derek Brunson. More heavier grappling fighter. But yeah, as long as Jack can keep it at his range and weather that early barrage by Roman, it should be Jack Hermanson all day.
Yeah, and Jack's also really improved the striking as well. Next one, Nicolaou versus Matthias Nicolaou versus Matt Schnell. I like Nicolaou at this price. I hate it. It makes me want to take a shot at Schnell, but Nicolaou is my pick by slight either decision or submission. I think grappling is going to be a big part, though.
Yeah, I have Nicolaou on parlays from a couple of weeks ago, but the more I look into this fight, I really think Matt Schnell can pull it off. People always write him off, so I'm definitely going to have to hedge bet somehow with Matt Schnell, but my initial pick was Matthias Nicolaou, and I'll stick with that.
And I accidentally skipped over Tai versus Sergey Pavlovich. I think Tai survives the early storm and puts away Pavlovich in the second round. So I like the second round TKO for Tai. And Tai is the fourth member of my parlay. So he is a dog in the parlay, a rare dog. But yeah, I like Tai to survive that storm, and Pavlovich is going to cardio dump.
For sure. Alistair Overeem knocked him out in round 1. I think Tai is I think he's got better footwork. He moves really well for a heavyweight, and he can evade
he's deceptively hard to hit too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's got good head movement. I think he could really tire. Once those arms fill up with the lactic acid for Pavlovich, he's going to be done.
All that muscle,
He's going to
take over. I'd say late round 1, he's going to get the finish, or early round 2.
He's going to look like Sergey Karatanov by the end of round 1. He's going to look like that very old Russian. RDA versus Brian Barberina in the co-main event. Fifth and final piece of the parlay is going to be RDA. It's going to cheat here, but RDA by decision.
Yeah, for sure. Rinse and repeat takedowns. I'd say he gets about 9 or 10 of them. And gets that dominant 30-27 decision most likely.
And then in the main event, Kevin Holland versus Stephen Thompson. If Kevin Holland was smart, he'd mix up with the takedowns, use his wrestling, and I think could have some really good fortune. He's not going to be. He's going to get into a kickboxing affair. He's going to say the shots to Stephen aren't affecting me and kind of laugh him off and allow Stephen to keep piling up the points, and Stephen's going to outpoint him to a decision, Stephen Thompson decision.
Yeah, this is a technical striking game plan versus a volume-heavy game plan. It's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to this main event. I'm going to take the young buck here, Kevin, well, not young. He's 30. He's in his prime fighter. And Kevin Holland by decision. I'm going to bet them both by split decision as well. You'll probably get good odds on that.
Nope, and that's going to do it. We're throwing it back, almost a 2-hour show today, but 15 fights to talk about.
Yeah.
Shout out to our guest, Ben the Bane Davis.
It's definitely worth a follow.
Yeah, pleasure to talk with him. Had a lot of good stuff to talk about. And that's going to do it for the week. UFC breakdown for Fight Night in Orlando is in the books. Check out Brandon at MMA Wagers over on Facebook as where you can predominantly contact him. And appreciate it, man. Thank you for reaching out to Ben. And great show, great guest. Yeah, I agree, Justin. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Just My 2 Cents, Moist Audio, everybody else in the chat. Appreciate it. We had a good chat today. Good luck this weekend. Keep taking care of each other out there. Peace out.